Hello and welcome back to Hoffmann-Photography. My name is Rainer and in today's video we'll have a closer look at the curve tool, the Swiss Army knife of image editing. The curve tool is perhaps the most versatile tool in any image editing software. And indeed, in many cases, it's the only tool I need to optimize my images. However, many beginners are unaware of the curve tool and how it works. Let's change that. Here's a disclaimer. I'll be using a very old version of Photoshop that you can't buy anymore to show the curve tool. But you know the routine by now. I'll be marking this video as advertising just to be on the safe side. Here we go. In Photoshop you find the curve tool under Image, Adjustments, Curves. Or for those of you who like keyboard shortcuts, Ctrl and M. Let's zoom in a bit. Despite its name, the curve tool always starts with a straight line from the lower left corner to the upper right corner. More on that in a minute. In the background of the curve tool is the histogram. If you don't know what a histogram is, you might want to watch the video on histograms first. Link is in the description. On the horizontal axis, we have the tonal values of the unprocessed image, and those values are called input. And they are from black on the left side to white on the right side. On the vertical axis, we have the tonal values of the processed image, called output. Again, from black at the bottom to white at the top. At the moment, we haven't done anything to the image, therefore input equals output. When I click on this tiny little square in the lower left-hand corner, the input and output values of this point on the curve are displayed in these boxes. The lower left-hand point on the curve tool represents black, and black has a value 0. Because we haven't moved this point yet, the output value is as well 0. The same is true for the point in the upper right-hand corner, which represents white. It's black now, that means it's active now. And white has a value 255. And since we haven't changed anything, input equals output. Output is 255 as well. So this means black remains black, white remains white, medium gray remains medium gray, dark gray remains dark gray, and so on. So let's forget colors at the moment and let's pretend that there is just light and dark. Of course, the purpose of the curve tool is to change the tonal values of the image. So let's do that. The histogram shows that there are no black and no very dark gray pixels in the image. And the very light gray and white pixels are missing as well. That simply means that the image lacks contrast. But we can change that easily. When we carefully move the lower left-hand point on the curve to where the pixels in the histogram start, that's about here. Let's do it. To here. The formerly dark gray pixels with the input value of 17, that's here, are now set to an output value of 0. And that means they are now black. And when we move the upper right-hand point on the curve to where the pixels begin in the histogram about here. The input value of, in this case, 228 is set to the output value of 255, which is white. Let's zoom out and switch the preview off and on a few times so you can see the difference. Before, after, before, after. The fact that the straight line of the curve tool is now steeper than before, it was 45 degrees at the start, and it's now much steeper than these 45 degrees. And that means that the contrast is higher, and that's easily visible in the image. Before, after, before, after. So far, this is exactly the same effect as if you would use the Levels tool. I made a video on the Levels tool a while back, link is in the description. If the Curve tool does exactly what the Levels tool does, then what is so special about the Curve tool? Well, there is a reason why it is called the Curve tool. So far, we just have a straight line. But let's zoom in again. I can add additional points to the line by clicking on the line right here, for example. There's a new point that's active now. And I can as well add another one, for example, here. And now I can move these points up or down. And then we have a real curve. I move this one up, and I move this one down, for example. Now we have a real curve, in this case, an S-curve. And this darkens the dark areas of the image, and it brightens up the bright areas of the image. Because I moved this point up, and I moved this point downwards. Let's zoom out. And I move the palette a bit out of the way. And look what happens when I deactivate the preview and activate it again. Before, after. Maybe I overdid it a bit in the dark areas over here, so let's correct that. I move this point a bit upwards again. So yeah, that's much better. Quite often, this is all I do with my images. Just give the Curves tool a slight S-curve. And that's often enough to make the image really pop. But there's more that this tool can do. This image has a distinct bluish color cast. So let's call up the Curves tool again. Control and M, there it is. And again, let's zoom in a bit. Here is the one-click color correction tool. When you activate this eyedropper tool in the middle and move the mouse pointer into the image, Photoshop will force the pixel beneath the mouse pointer, here it is, beneath the mouse pointer, to a neutral gray when you click, and thereby remove the color cast from the entire picture. Like this. Click, and there you go. But be careful. This only works if there is something in the picture that in reality is neutral gray, like the pavement here. If you click somewhere else, something like this will happen. Oops. So let's reset that. Reset, and well, again, if you click in an area of the image that in reality is neutral gray, then this one-click solution works well. I have to activate the eyedropper tool again and click. There you go. Okay, again I will reset this and we got this bluish tint again. If there's nothing neutral gray in the image, you can try to remove a color cast by manipulating the individual color channels. You see the channels up here, and at the moment it says RGB, meaning all channels will be affected by what you do to the curve. But you can select the individual color channels. For example, I can activate the blue channel, and now to remove a bluish cast, I can pull the curve downwards a bit. Let's see how much, and yes, let's see. Let's switch the preview on and off. Yep, it's not too bad, but usually you must compensate this by using one of the other channels, in this case the red channel, and move it up a bit, and then yep, this should be much better. So it works, but frankly it is a bit cumbersome and there are more intuitive tools for color correction available. Okay, I'll reset that and I'll zoom out a bit. And just for fun, finally, let's go wild. Well, I don't know why I should do that, but there are people who like it. I hope you understand why I like the curve tool so much. If you are not familiar with the curve tool, give it a try. I believe it will quickly become one of your favorite tools as well. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.